As the RMS Titanic neared its fateful end on the night of April 14, 1912, a sequence of events unfolded, leading to its sinking in the early hours of April 15. The final moments of the Titanic were marked by chaos, fear, and desperation as the full realization of the impending disaster set in among the crew and passengers on board. Around 11:40 p.m. on April 14, the Titanic received multiple warnings from other ships about the presence of icebergs in the vicinity. Despite these warnings, the ship maintained its course at a high speed. The night was clear, but the calmness of the sea made it difficult to spot icebergs until they were dangerously close. At approximately 11:40 p.m., lookout Feats spotted an iceberg directly ahead of the ship. He immediately rang the bell 3 times and picked up the telephone to the bridge, warning the officers. "Iceberg right ahead." First Officer William Murdoch, who was in command at the time, ordered the ship to be steered hard to starboard, right, and the engines to be reversed, attempting to avoid a direct collision. However, it was too late. The Titanic grazed the iceberg along its starboard side, causing a series of punctures in the hull beneath the waterline. The enormity of the situation began to dawn on those on board as the ship's fate was sealed. Captain Edward Smith was quickly alerted about the collision and arrived on the bridge to assess the situation. He ordered Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, to inspect the damage. Andrews realized that the Titanic was doomed as he observed the flooding in the forward compartments. He estimated that the ship had about 2 hours left before it would sink. As the ship's crew scrambled to launch distress signals and ready the lifeboats, the passengers, initially unaware of the severity of the situation, began to sense the urgency and panic spread throughout the vessel. The crew struggled to maintain order and ensure the orderly evacuation of the ship. The lifeboats on the Titanic had a capacity to accommodate only a fraction of the total passengers and crew, which added to the desperation and chaos. The women and children first protocol was followed, with some exceptions. Many of the lifeboats were launched underfilled due to a lack of clear communication and organization. As time passed, the situation grew increasingly dire. The Titanic's bow began to sink lower into the water, and the angle of the ship's deck became steeper. The lights flickered and eventually went out, plunging the ship into darkness, adding to the terror and confusion. Passengers and crew who were unable to secure a place in the lifeboats faced an unimaginable fate. As the ship's stern rose higher out of the water, it became clear that the Titanic was moments away from its final plunge. People clung to railings, scrambled for higher ground, or jumped into the icy Atlantic in a desperate attempt to survive. The final moments were filled with screams, prayers, and heart-wrenching goodbyes as loved ones were separated and faced with an imminent tragedy. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic's hull broke apart under the immense strain, and the ship slipped beneath the surface, taking with it over 1,500 souls. As the Titanic sank beneath the wave, the scene on the surface of the water was one of utter devastation and despair. The frigid temperatures of the North Atlantic Ocean added to the already dire circumstance as survivors struggled to stay afloat in the icy water. In the immediate aftermath of the sinking, lifeboats that had managed to launch began to search for survivors and call for help. The nearest ship, RMS Carpathia, received the Titanic's distress signal and rushed to the scene. However, due to the distance and the Titanic's ill-preparedness with regard to lifeboats and emergency procedure, the Carpathia took approximately 4 hours to reach the survivors. During those agonizing hours, many individuals succumbed to hypothermia, drowning, or sheer exhaustion. Those who managed to stay afloat clung to debris such as lifebelts, pieces of wreckage, or even the bodies of the unfortunate victims who did not survive. As the Carpathia arrived, the survivors were brought on board and received medical attention, warmth, and comfort. The magnitude of the loss became evident as the names of the rescued were compiled and compared with the ship's passenger list. Families and friends waited anxiously for news, hoping against hope that their loved ones had somehow survived. News of the Titanic's sinking reverberated across the world, causing shockwaves of grief and disbelief. The tragic fate of the unsinkable ship captivated public attention and sparked a global outcry for improved safety regulations and procedures for passenger ships. Investigations and inquiries were conducted to determine the cause of the disaster and to hold individuals and organizations accountable. The sinking of the Titanic led to significant changes in maritime regulations, including the requirement for ships to carry enough lifeboats for all passengers and crew, the establishment of the International Ice Patrol to monitor iceberg danger in the North Atlantic, and the creation of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea (SALAS) Treaty. The sinking of the Titanic continues to be remembered as a monumental tragedy that claimed countless lives and forever changed the course of maritime history. It serves as a haunting reminder of the consequences of complacency, inadequate safety measures, and the indomitable power of nature. The story of the Titanic has become ingrained in our collective consciousness, reminding us of the fragility of human endeavors and the importance of valuing life above all else.